Okay.
Today.
Hi everyone, Jo and I are here today to talk to you about quite a well-known tool called the Johari Window. It's something that you can use in coaching and in self-development and leadership to help people to really expand their awareness of themselves and the impact that they have on others. So we're going to talk you through the tool. It's a quadrant, so you want to be, if you're following along, draw yourself a grid on a piece of paper, and we'll talk you through each of the quadrants and how you would use them in coaching. So, Jo, do you want to kick off with the first area?
Yeah, and just to say that for those that like to know where the models have come from, Johari's model window was devised by American psychologists Joseph Luft and Harry Ingham in 1955. And Johari is actually a mixture of their names. And they devised this model when they were part of a researching when they were researching group dynamics at the University of California. So that's where it came from. So as Zoe said, it's quite an old and also well-known model.
Yeah.
So the first element is the open area. And this is everything about you that is known to yourself, but also that is known to others. So it's where you are very open. You might know that you're somebody that gets frustrated when you don't get what you want. And other people might know that you're the type of person that gets frustrated when you don't get what you want. So there's alignment, there's a shared understanding about the way that you behave and maybe even the reasons for your behavior.
Yeah, and I would say some of that is almost like it's your space of authenticity. It's when you
Yeah.
are being yourself, and as you say, that's very transparent to people. You're not trying to hide anything. You're showing up as who you are, and that's very much a safe place. I suppose in the next area, which would be, let's go to the blind area. This is where other people know things about you that you don't know about yourself. And you'll often hear that term blind spots, when people talk about development areas, and, the role of feedback. So that might be perhaps where you're going to a meeting and you're coming across in a way that you think is very clear and concise, but actually people are struggling to understand you. Perhaps you're waffling too much, but you aren't aware that that is how you're coming across. So that would be a blind spot to you. And
Yeah, and another
sorry, Jo.
yeah. So another example might be you might be coaching a manager and they think that they are a very helpful manager, but they share with you that some of the feedback that they've had from their team is that they experience them as being controlling or micromanaging. And as a coach, what you're able to do as well is if your client or your coachee is sharing something with you and you ask them how they feel about it and they say, yeah, fine, and you can see their hands are like this, then you might be able to say, oh, that's interesting because I hear you saying that and I'm noticing this body language. And like, really, I didn't know I was doing that. Yeah. And that might be an indication that that's a blind spot or a part of the blind area for that individual. And that could be a really rich area to then open out and do some coaching work with them on.
Yeah, and I suppose that is one of the places on this grid where you as the coach are going to work with your clients. So in coaching, you bring a lot of observation skills to coaching to help your client to build their self-awareness. And essentially what you're doing is reducing the blind spots that they have. So they become aware of their behavior. They become aware of the impact that they have on others, both in a positive sense and in a development sense, because often you also don't know where you're doing great work, so that can also be a blind spot. So bringing your coaching skills into this blind area is really important as a coach.
Yeah. And then the third area as we look at it, so this would be in your bottom left hand quadrant, is called the hidden area. So these are things that you know about yourself but that you don't share with other people, and this is sometimes also referenced as the private area. And this might be thoughts or feelings that you have that you don't feel safe or don't desire to share with other people. But often in the coaching relationship, the client will say, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm about to tell you this, or I can't believe I've told you this. I've never told anybody this before. And you might say, how long have you been thinking this? And they might say, oh, 5 years, but I haven't told anybody. So it's private. And also what can happen is that sometimes this area is hidden by the facade that we present to the world in what we call our open area. And sometimes that can be when somebody is very extroverted And sometimes that's to hide insecurities, for example. So again, there may be some useful work to do with your coachee around the reasons that they keep certain elements, and it might be their capability that they keep hidden. Some people are actually worried about being successful, for example, and that can be frightening for them. So there can be some really useful work done in that area too.
Yeah, and I think what actually happens in coaching is you almost take the things that are in the hidden area, have a close inspection of like, what are they? Why are you keeping them hidden? Do they need to be hidden? Would there be benefit to you in bringing them out in the open area? And reducing the size of that hidden area and expanding the open area by helping people to feel safer, more confident, celebrating their strengths and their qualities, reframing the things that they feel they need to keep hidden. So again, that's the great area of where the coach and the coachee can work together.
Yeah, working on their beliefs.
Yeah, working on beliefs, values, those sorts of things. And then you move into the unknown area, which is things that are not known to you or the coachee, and also not known to others. And this is really where the work of the coach takes shape, because as the coach, you get to observe almost like the system that the coachee is working in. So you hear what the coachee is saying, you're observing their thoughts, their behavior, understanding how they think, you're listening to what they say about other people and maybe gathering feedback through 360s, and you're the person who gets to share your objective perspective and say things like, oh, it's interesting you say that. Have you thought about this? Have you looked at it from this perspective? And together what you do is to really expand the awareness of the coachee and really dive into what could be in this unknown space. This is the space of creativity. It's the space of building self-awareness. So it's a really rich area that you can do some work in.
Yeah, and I like to call that area the potential area, because that's the word that sums it up for me. It's like, what is your potential that maybe you haven't explored yet? And I think it relates very well to the concept of growth mindset, that idea of not yet. So, for those of you that are watching that are already coaches, I'm sure like with everything that we share, you can see, oh, there's a bit of that in that, and oh, there's a bit of that in that. And what you can do if you're a newly qualified or a coach in training is just take a moment to think about, what sort of questions would I ask to explore this area? What sort of questions would I ask to explore that area? And so on. So, as you're building up your library of questions that you can draw from, this is one way to, approach that if you like to work with models.
Yes, if you're looking with models, Sorry, I was going to say, if you're looking for a practical application, like how would you actually use this Johari window? I think one particular way you might do that is that, say you're in a leadership role, is to draw out the Johari window and literally fill out each of these quadrants. So what is it about your leadership that is in this open area? What is it about your leadership that is in the hidden area? Maybe just, even though it's blind to you, so you wouldn't necessarily be able to, what feedback have you got that might indicate that you have some blind spots? And what would you like to see in the unknown area? What's possible for you that you could fill out in that unknown area? And you can do that for yourself, or equally as a coach, you can start to work through each of those quadrants. And lots of different ways, I'm sure you can come up with your own ideas about a practical application of how you would use a tool like this.
I've used it as a line manager in the past, with teams. So as part of our one-to-ones, sort of contracted with them around self-development. And this is a tool that's shared because it's quite easy to explain. And it's okay if they don't quite get it initially. It's really interesting to see, what they put in those areas, how that relates to their role, how does that relate to the plans of the organisation, and so on. It can really help to build the relationship, as long as you're building on a trusting relationship. That is really key. Yeah. So it's kind of a nice, in a nutshell, exercise, something that you can use. Hope you found it useful.
Yeah, and take a look at some of our other videos, either in the coaching crowd or here on YouTube. So take care.